Welcome to a special Monday, the 12th. I was moody for the past 15 minutes, but I said I'm gonna go work out. I said, hard to get into it, but hey, I said, I know I'm gonna feel much better. I did an hour of mathematics, and I love math. And I finished my laundry, and I got a little bit of Aspiness, without Asperger's, a little bit of that Aspie moodiness. If you're an Aspie, you know what I mean. Maybe more myself as an individual Aspie. But here we are. We're gonna work out, train, exercise, and gonna watch some Brock Purdy season 2024 season highlights. I was gonna watch Super Bowl 58 or 47 because we're gonna win in a few weeks. February 8th, my Niners Empire rebirth time. Please give some chatty, triple the cheerleader salaries. This workout is dedicated to my anonymous friend and potential. I have none for now on this 12th of January 2026, but open for friends with benefits. You gotta be 18 plus for that play. We're gonna work out on this chair right here, which has the dragon's flag. Nobody's born a dragon. You become one for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, the doctors. My fellow neurodivergent community and LGBTQ community, we're gonna be hydrated with some milk. We're gonna be working on with this brick. Let's see how much does it weigh. It is about 11 pounds. See, 5 kilos, 11 pounds. You can't see that well because gotta change those light bulbs. But see, that's what it is about. The brick. See, it's about 5 kilos, which means it's about 11 pounds. So here it is, the brick by brick. Yes, see, we're gonna be. This is the brick, and that's the weight. So 5 kilos is about 11 pounds. So I guess gonna be passing it from one hand to the left and putting it here, and I'll put this away. Open this milk. So we're gonna hydrate it with some milk. So we're gonna watch Block Party season 2024, discuss some geopolitics, stretch before commencing. We're gonna freestyle it. We're gonna not be a long 2-3 hours, but we're gonna be an hour and a half of working out here, hydrating with some milk. Financially stressed, but hey, gotta be grateful for the milk, the cows, local Quebec milk. Gotta get that protein, get that calcium, get it for that rock and roll. We're gonna fill the cup of milk. Later we're gonna have a little bit of that sweet. We're gonna improvise, make a little dessert of our own with some biscuits and have maybe some soup and some hummus, some bread. So here we are, started watching. What I'm watching basically is Brock Purdy's 2024 highlights from 2024. National Football League, NHL, NBA, please, and MLB as well. Give some charity. Give some charity and reduce the cost of the tickets. Give some tickets for the public workers, firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, the electricians. Well, the public workers are those picking up the garbage, the recycling. Oh, there's a water pass to number 44. Wow, that was a hell of a pass to number 44. Use check. This is 2024 season highlights, so gonna stretch a little bit, get into the workout, and what a great loop. It was a great pass, and just gonna watch some Brock Purdy and Mr. Irrelevant gonna get our Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl for faithful 49ers Empire rebirth time, parallel to our empire. Dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom. And always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, this independent artist, athlete, and philosopher and geopolitical analyst and theorist and mystic. Gonna discuss a little bit of movie reviews and gonna just freestyle it a bit, and scripted and raw, real, Aspiesque. I have this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, so also known as HFA, high functioning autism, and it's a little bit of communication might be a bit strange or awkward or bizarre in some ways, less than some maybe. Asperger's is not a mental illness, it's not a disease, it's basically a form of autism, right? It's they merged. So Asperger's is now known as HFA, high functioning autism. And they merged. It is the same neurological mental divergent condition, which again has merged in 2013, 2014. So now when I use Asperger's or HFA, basically I'm referring to the same neurological mental divergent condition. Not an illness, not a disease, yes, in parentheses, double D, disorder, disability, and certain things, not all things, but paradoxically is counterbalanced and superseded by the other parentheses, which is SS, special skills, which are usually revolved around our special interest. And you know, with yours truly, my special interest is the holy trinity of special interest, sports and fitness, and rock and roll and geopolitics, geopolitics 24/7. I actually take great pride in my independent geopolitical theorizing and analysis and philosophies. I actually predicted what's happening now back in 2019. And as I look at this game now, I see a lot of mathematics, the trajectory of the lobe of the velocities, the steps needed to be taken to reach a certain point, and there's a lot of math. If you look at gridiron, it's not just physicality, but there's a lot of mathematics. You know, the trajectory of the ball, whether left, right, or center. You know, if it's an ellipse or a semicircular one or a straight line, it differs. You can get 6 to the right, 6 down the middle, and 6 down to the left, and this you have 18 total to get that first down, but you might have one that you pass in a straight line, the other one more in ellipsis, and the other one might be in a semicircle, you know. So you can lob it, straight it, or up, down the side it, you know, different ways to pass the ball, different ways to get it to the receiver, in the hands of the receiver to get those yards necessary. You know, gridiron is a diverse sports, and I see a lot of mathematics in it, I guess, with my Aspie brain, because Aspies, we have brains that are different, and the way we perceive the world is we process information differently. But you know, that's just something that I have to learn to, and I've learned a great deal in the past 3.5 years, because it took me years and years and years and years to accept my neurodivergence. And I've been semi-officially diagnosed since around 2015, 2016, but I always refused it. I didn't want to accept, and it took me years and years and years to finally accept my neurodivergence and the fact that I am, of course, on the spectrum. And being that I'm on the spectrum of autism and have Asperger's, I have to always build bridges with a small, medium, large, or extra large bridges with my fellow neurotypical population, with which you, of course, you constitute the vast majority of the population. Second, even work out on the chair by pushing my hands like this, and then lift the feet. And I train like that, just like doing gymnastics type of exercises. So right on this chair with this brick is everything I need for a total body, because earlier I went for more than an hour. I had to do laundry. I didn't go for a long march today. I'm gonna go tomorrow. Last week, I guess I'm starting officially the first week for my official marches. You know, I have 2 seasons of the year that run basically between March 19th and October 21st, when I have to average a minimum of 25 hours of marching, will rock and roll and meditation. And between October 21st, October 20th or 21st, till about March 19th, 20th, I have to average a minimum of 20. So those, in between those months, those are my marching season. You know, it's divided in two, basically, kind of co-equivalent with 7 months and 5 months, you know, October 19th to March 20th about, and March 19th till about October 19th, you know. So those 2 seasons. So between October 19th and March 19th, 20th, I have to average a minimum of 20, and between March 19th/20th and October 20th, 21st, I have to average 25 hours. So by 5 hours more, which if you check the fractions, or of course the percentage, is about 5 over 20 is basically a fourth, which is 25%, right? In fractions can be converted into percentages, right? And vice versa, percentages can be converted into fractions. So it's kind of fun to work out with a brick, you know. It's not that heavy, but what I like is that it has this little hole there, so you can kind of put the finger in it, and you know, kind of like a ball. But it's kind of fun, you know. but you feel it. It's 11, a little bit more than 11 pounds, probably like 13.3, 13.4 pounds in actuality. That's what it is, because it's like 5 kilos. It's about that. So it's about 13.3, 13.4 pounds, but you can just oblique it and just work out in different ways with it. Oh, there you go, touchdown, San Francisco. Of course, Brock Purdy is my favorite player, and he was drafted Mr. Irrelevant, playing for. You can see hundreds of my videos from years and years and years ago, dating from when since I started my YouTube channel, basically, more than 7, 8 years ago, where I have the Adrian the Niner, where I cheerlead for the 49ers as an Empire faithful, and I'm still yet, of course, to enjoy a Super Bowl, because, we had those Super Bowls which we won in the 80s and 90s, but it's been a long drought, eh? It's been 30 years, eh? 30-year drought. Yeah, it's been a 33-year drought. This year is going to be 33 years, right? Wait, only 5, right? Wow, 30-year drought. 94, 30-year drought. Let's say 30-year drought, right? Brock Purdy, he takes a few steps. Ooh, almost sacked. He rushes. He goes out of bounds. What a jump. Just had to jump it on the go. Otherwise, he would have got what a play. He's got some feet, got some speed, got some athletics. Brock Purdy got drafted last. He got the title Mr. Irrelevant, and he took us to the Super Bowl. And look what he's been doing in the just he was injured and he came out of he only lost once, one game, eh? And that was 13-3, the lowest, a very low score, just like Super Bowl 53, I believe 53 was Super Bowl 53. Patriots versus the Rams lost the last Super Bowl that Brady won with the Patriots, right? It was the lowest ever scoring Super Bowl, 13-3. Just like 2 weeks ago, we lost 13-3, right? So that's something to think about. 13-3, yeah, versus the Rams. The lowest ever scoring Super Bowl is actually one of my top 5 favorites. Not a lot of people like it, but I enjoy it, along with Super Bowl 47. Also, aka Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames. Is known as Super Bowl, Hardball, Blackout Ball, Bro Ball. My 49ers lost to the Ravens by 3 points, but I don't personally recall that. But I watched that Super Bowl, these Super Bowls, Super Bowl 47, several Super Bowls. Basically, I watch every year a few times. Because as far as my memory goes, I have trouble remembering my life prior to February 2014, end of 2013, early 2014, January, February 2014, November, December 2013. I have trouble remembering my life prior to that date, which is a long time ago. So I have a good memory, but January 2014 or 2026, so that's 12 years ago. So I have a very good memory of the past, like 11 years, 11 and a half years. Just before that is like a blackout and flashes. I still have to retrieve the archives at the Jewish General Hospital, because years and years ago I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few times, hit my head on the concrete, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder. Right arm, right shoulder, right arm, and it was dislocated, and had that dislocated right arm or shoulder. And of course, I was bloodied up, and I went to the emergency room at the Jewish General Hospital, and they cracked back my right arm, doctors, and they cracked it back, and then I was put on some placement. I was put on some meds. So I want to go retrieve from the archives the date when I was at the emergency, and I'm very curious about the medicine. What type of medication was it? I moved here with nothing, eh? I moved here with nothing. Well, a high school diploma, and that's it. And the black with 5 stars coat that was donated, I retrieved it actually. It's good to have some milk. Cows and workers and firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, the nurses finishing a 12-hour shift. What am I moody? I got to be in solidarity with the nurses, the firefighters, the truckers, the butchers, the bakers, those plumbers, those transporting some food, those, of course, flipping the burgers, the cheeseburgers, those involved in the production, distribution of food, and All they gotta spit some rock and roll for them 24/7 for the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, and all those now train conductors, the train conductors as well, the truckers, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the firefighters, hydrating with that milk. And myself as a androgynous pansexual artist, athlete, philosopher, and laying the foundations for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom with 718 trillions of kisses. It's always God bless and God is kiss the coming of our empires. I was born in the United States 3 times post 1776. Just read George Patton to a glass darkly. That's one of my favorite poems. George Patton wrote a poem about reincarnation, but George Patton doesn't mention his reincarnations as a woman, although I was born a man, a woman, a woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, woman, a man. And so many times throughout different incarnations until today, you get that 50-50. I am androgynous, and as far as being part of the LGBTQ community, I'm in the open, out of the closet for as long as I can remember. I guess 2014, but it was 2014. Michael Sam got drafted. They didn't let Michael Sam play in the NFL because he kissed his white boyfriend when he got drafted. They didn't let Michael Sam play in the NFL because he kissed his white boyfriend when he got drafted. He was the first gay player. Afterwards, it was Colin Seeb a few years ago. He come play with me some rainbow gridiron, Gotta be 18 plus to be eligible to be friends with benefits, The Dragon Army, Dancing Goddess Army, to complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, which I'm calling for the establishment thereof, and via mass public-private partnership, of course, co-equivalent with all my theories and protocols and initiatives. And my only stress now is financial, because that's the only stress really besides financial stress. I'm pretty good, pretty joyous. I was just moody earlier, and I was craving a massage. So I work out, I live a very fit lifestyle, but I gotta be thankful that I can afford to have a bathtub here where I live now. I didn't even have a bathtub. Where I used to live, I didn't even have a bathtub. The bath so moldy. It was like, I always say I served my time. It wasn't really a prison cell, but I say it was like a prison cell really, because the bathroom was so small where I lived. It was like worse than a prison cell bathroom. I didn't even have a bathtub. I have a bathtub here now, and I didn't even have a separate kitchen. It was in my room, so it was tiny, small, moldy. Maybe the mold caused amnesia. I have retrograde amnesia. It's like considered a form of amnesia. But when you have a memory loss, personal memory loss of like high school, early childhood, adolescence, stuff like that, it doesn't affect mathematical knowledge and skills, because I do have above average mathematics, and I love doing math, especially fractions, percentages, calculations of that matter of percentages. I love percentages, and I do it constantly, such as mathematical calculation, the ratios of the prices on the supermarket, estimations of wholesale and retail and wholesale. Always when I go to the market, there's always constantly in my brain, as you can see from my past videos. If you take the time to read the transcripts, you're going to get acquainted with some weird Aspie mathematics. I'm not a genius in mathematics nor in science, and not all Aspies are good at computer science, by the way. About 1/5, 20%, which is disproportionately higher than, of course, the neurotypical population, of which you constitute the vast majority of the population. You're 99% right compared to us, who are less than 1% of the population of the North America, who have Asperger's. And yeah, I believe in reincarnations. I was born in the United States 3 times, post 1776, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces. The wars were 156 years apart, so they're far off apart in terms of the timelines, but the same U.S. Army. I served in 2 different wars. The wars were 156 years apart, and now we got to learn to play that defense. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. It's a dragon versus Trump since 2018. Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Back in 2018, Donald Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. And, this Canadian, Quebecer, or North American, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. And my way to fuse Canada and the United States into the Imperial Republic complex best as a mass public-private partnership with my initiative, especially the fusion of the RCMP and the FBI into the Imperial Police Service based on my new 911 Dragon Total Army protocols for total security, total service, total defense, and created two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. The public-private partnership Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated SSD Legion, SSD Security Service and Defense Legion, and of course the Imperial Police Service, parallel, of course, to the dynamical aspects where we have now, of course, to calculate in the parallel the establishment thereof over the Concordiate and the implementation of my Trinity or theories, which are basically political and geopolitical in nature, as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who has predicted what's happening now back in 2019. My theories and ideas, and especially the Trinity or theories, the CIT citizen integration theory, the DRT debt row fusion theory, and the DFT democratic fusion theory to be implemented via LOVE. That's what matters incredibly, and the motto of our empire will be the youth, the children are innocent. The motto, one of the mottos, creeds, mottos of our empire will be the children are innocent. And I'm going to fuse the 63 in a mass public-private partnership with my fellow Canadians. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic, and my dream, fundamentally, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, is, of course, a mass public-private partnership. And I got these gloves from my anonymous friend 7 years ago, like October 2018. And I was started basically getting into politics in a way because I was more on the sidelines. But Granddaddy Trump, I guess, got me in, and she got me these gloves, and I'm auctioning them for $1 million. I was calling for the building thereof on the Canadian-U.S. border of a Canadian-U.S. joint aluminum and steel ring. But now I'm calling, of course, for the building of the 4 on the Canadian-U.S. border, to build the most biggest ever sports arena coliseum for Sportis in Perpetuitis ever built. Of course, to build the biggest arena of sports complex ever built in the category of the arenas with the coliseum which were ever built. To build it Canadian-United States joint, aluminum and steel joint on the Canadian-US border, to build it and to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. The Caesar Superdome had several names before. Well, changed names several times, but several Super Bowls were fought and battled out there. Several Super Bowls were fought and battled out. Super Bowl 47 was one of them when my 49ers lost. The Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames: Bro Bowl, Hardball Bowl, aka Bro Bowl, Hardball Bowl, and Blackout Bowls. So that's what we're going to do, of course, Integrity, of course, what we're going to get, of course, to build on the Canadian-US border this massive Imperial Coliseum, Trump Dragon Coliseum, of course, and it's going to be, let it be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, 11 times. And we're going to have Sportis in Perpetuities, monthly events for different workers, such as the plumbers, the electricians, the cooks, the firefighters, the welders, the nurses, the doctors every month. Special dedications for the different workers. And of course, we're going to have special sports events, and the inauguration event is going to be me, Dragon versus Trump, in a sportsmanship-like conduct. It's going to be sportsmanship, right? That's what it requires, and we're going to fuse my way best, the RCMP and the FBI, into the IPS, Imperial Police Service, based on my protocols, which are, a lot of them are inspired by, of course, the sportsmanship and the rules of gridiron, although dancing is my favorite sport. Love to dance, Priestess of the goddess, aka Dragon. Got those God bless, goddess kiss. We say God bless, you gotta say where the goddess kiss the God. It's on the table is God bless and goddess, G-O-D-D-S-S, kiss, Gotta get that God goddess, Triple the cheerleader salaries, and please support PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League. I wish I could afford to get the tickets. I would get tickets actually for Victoire here, Professional Women's Hockey League, but financially stressed at the moment, so got a budget, and open for friends with benefits. You gotta be 18 for that, or pledge your legion, support the dream. The Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom is fundamentally a dream for a North American collective union, public-private partnership thereof for total SSD, security, service, and defense. I'm calling on my brother Scorpius, Bill Gates, Flock Safety, and all organizations and institutions with our public-private partnerships to be also mass financing fitness, because it has done me so much good for my mental health and my joy. And my fitness journey began 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean. I crossed it in 2017 summer with my anonymous friend. I still have the tickets. I'm auctioning them for $1 million. 3.5 days to take. It took from here to Vancouver, 3.5 days. Then, of course, from here, of course, to Halifax, it took 25 hours and 44 minutes. 25 hours and 44 minutes from here to Vancouver. See, we stabilized. It's a good workout on the chair for the upper body. I got this chair taken my friend who brought it in red, my favorite color. This chair, I'm auctioning it for $1 billion. $1 billion. 1 billion has 9 zeros, so give half to my anonymous friend. This chair is $1 billion worth now, and auctioning this shirt, everything that I'm wearing, the underwear, the socks, and 92% of there's Birdie. Win a touchdown. To number 85, kiddo. Wow, just straight beamer. What I'm watching now are Brock Purdy highlights. 2024, best of Brock Purdy. 2024 season, that's what I'm watching on the TV and working out at the same time. Straight bullet. Wow, that was such a straight bullet, right in it. Here's San Francisco versus the Kansas City. San Francisco was 3-3. Kansas City was 5-0, and we lost Super Bowl 58, to lost Super Bowl 58 to Kansas City. Yeah, Super Bowl 58. By 3 points, though, just like Super Bowl 47, That's one of my favorites, Super Bowl 47. Auctioning this for $1 million. So let's build 4 buildings together. On the Canadian-US border, the biggest ever sports arena complex ever built. Where we're gonna have sport this in perpetuities, and the inauguration is gonna be Dragon versus Trump. Maybe I'm still gonna be able to use these gloves, red, auctioning them for $1 million. What I said. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna be. Me and Donald Granddaddy Trump has made the mistakes to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Paradoxically, we also have to understand what we've been proposed admission to the Union. So in many ways, my dream is a part fusion, Canada, United States, and semi-admission to the Union. But we're gonna have to protocol a new constitution for this massive fusion, which is gonna create a new geopolitical reality for total BDD, benevolent dominance in the Dominion. By the Imperial Republic of the American Canadian Empire, which we're going to fuse into the 63 complex, meaning because we're going to add 13 states. It's not one state, though. Do the math right, Granddaddy Trump, it's 13. So 50 plus 13 is 63. 50 plus 13 is 63, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, always for the 63. So we're going to fuse, well, the NHL is not really national, right? So that we don't need to change the NHL nor the NBA. The only one which is going to add is going to be the CFL with the NFL, right? So that's something which we're going to be working to do that. And the RCMP, we're going to fuse with the FBI, RCMP and the FBI, into the IPS, Imperial Police Service, and we're going to constitute the creation of 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka officially the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense, also based on my protocols, initiatives, and realities of today's geopolitical environment, which we're on the verge of World War III. If World War III has now started, in parallel, of course, we're going to implement the rebuilding and the building of the 4 structures, mass structures on the Canadian-US border, the biggest ever sports arena ever built, the Imperial People's Coliseum for our fusion, which is going to signify the fusion thereof on the Canadian-US border, a big mass Imperial Coliseum, 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, which before it was known as the Mercedes-Benz, and before it was known as the Louisiana Dome. Then it's changed to Mercedes-Benz, and now it's known as Caesar Superdome, just like I changed name during COVID. I can't believe in a few weeks, between mid-February to mid-March 2020 is going to be 6 years soon. 6 years since I had COVID right here. I died right here. I have nothing that I will to go back to. I'm just being reborn, And on my fitness journey since 2017, I spent a few years depressed, suicidal. I almost took my lights out, and depressed and suicidal, and live with my scars. I'm going to keep updating on I gave myself a new deadline by February 8th. That is when the Super Bowl is going to be won by number 13, Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. This time we win. Empire Rebirth. And we're going to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, right? 3.5, because we're going to go to the finals, but 1 we're going to lose in the next 4 years. So we're going to win 60, 61, 62, 63, and then not the 64. The Super Bowl 60, 60, 61, 62, not the 63, 60, 61, 62, the 62. third now. Right? Wow. Six. Or 63 as well. 63. All of them in a row. 2026, 27, 28, 29. So 60, 61, 62, 63. But then we're going to. So Buddy's going to bring us four Super Bowls in a row. 60, 61, 62, 63. Great hope. You watch, watch, watch. 60, 61, 62, 63. Empire Rebirth with Birdie. And Bosa's going to be back, and we're going to upgrade the team, defense, offense, and that's when we're going to get rock and rolling, man. So please reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9%, though, and give some charity, and to the public workers as we're going to build the Imperial People's Coliseum, which is going to be the biggest ever sports arena ever built. Going to have sportists in perpetuity there. Me and Donald Trump, Granddaddy Trump, are going to fight in a sportsmanship like boxing match, and we're also going to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess GODDSS Temple, which is going to be 11 times bigger than what here we have the St. Joseph's Oratory. The St. Joseph's Oratory, that is what we have, of course, the St. Joseph's Oratory, which of course is the a big mass structure, so 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory is going to be the Forgotten Goddess Temple. And of course, parallel to the Forgotten Goddess Temple is going to be, of course, the Imperial People's Coliseum, and then the House of the Dragon, which is going to be scarlet crimson, of course, in the pyramid. Scarlet crimson, our shades of red. It's going to be a great pyramid build, the House of the Dragon, where I could have open doors. And the fourth building, which we're going to build, is the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community and Aspie community and autistic community and LGBTQ community. So the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Imperial People's Coliseum, the Rainbow People's Palace, so three, and the House of the Dragon in whatever order altogether, starting the House of the Dragon, the Imperial People's Coliseum, the Forgotten Goddess, and the Rainbow People's Palace. Rainbow People's Palace, Forgotten Goddess Temple, Imperial Coliseum, and the House of the Dragon. Those four. Pledge your allegiance, Legion. Support the implementation of my DRT, debt refusion to you. And I'm going to pronounce myself now. I'm going to say that I have proof for what I'm going to say next. I'm going to hydrate a bit. So I have proof for this following statement. This following statement, I have proof. So this proof is, of course, relative to what I'm going to say next. So due to my neurological mental condition, which is not a disease, it certainly has its, it's not always easy to build bridges, whether we build them small, medium, large, or extra large. Like those four categories are just like when you order coffee or fries, right, or a pizza. You might order a small pizza, or coffee, or fry, or large, or extra large, or medium, or small, medium, large, or extra large. Those four categories is basically that these are kind of also like the sizes of bridges with different individuals of which you constitute the neurotypical population of the 99%, the vast majority, more than you, the 99%, which are the vast majority, compared to us, which are less than 1%. We have to build these bridges. And unfortunately for my community, there's a horrible unemployment rate. I just meditated the other day that for Canada, the unemployment rate has gone up, which is unfortunate, to 7% or close to 7%. For Aspies like myself, the unemployment rate stands at between 80 and 85%. It's not that we don't get jobs, it's keeping them because we're different, so we communicate different. We might so social interactions can be more strange, and we have these characteristics rather than symptoms because it's not a disease. It just takes a lot of patience to understand fully. And with Aspie, sometimes you have to be more straightforward and direct. That's why I don't want to lose anybody's time, and it's friends with benefits only. If you're black or white or rainbow, white, black or rainbow, you got to be 18 plus for that. I could trade some massages and do some of that rock and roll, trade some massages, and that's just it with that, and that's what it is. I don't want to. I don't have pretense, like pretense that I don't like joy and to trade some massages for that feel good for the body, physicality. I embrace physicality, and of course, I'm not frustrated. I'm desperate, but I'm just financially stressed because many Aspies are. It's not just me, but many people are. Not all, but many people are today. That's why my DRT paradoxically is the solution. There's no other solution. Well, okay, but there is, but it has to resemble fundamentally my debt refusion theory paradoxically. Although I'm not an economist specifically in economics finance, but when you study geopolitics, is Aspies like myself, people who are neuro who have Asperger's like myself, we have what's called special interests. And these special interests, we basically fundamentally spend most of our days and times and sometimes very intense, super focused, hyper focused routines. We have these ritual like routines on a daily basis, and our special interests preoccupy pretty much most of our time, right? My holy trinity is geopolitics, sports and fitness, and rock and roll. And we can excel at those special interests. We can Aspies can become experts. And no, not all Aspies are good at computer science. Yes, there is a disproportionate number of Aspies who are good at computer science, which is about 20%, one fifth. But again, compared to your population, there's a disproportionate number. But when you compare the fact that in my community, which we are less than 1% of the population, the high unemployment, the unemployment rate stands at 80%. 80%, that is high. 80% is very high. It's unacceptable. Can you imagine? 4 out of 5 Aspies are unemployed. And again, not that we don't get jobs, it's keeping them. Keeping them can be more problematic, you know. Just keeping the jobs can be a problem for many Aspies, including myself. I had many, many, many jobs. I just lost them and kept losing the jobs, kept losing the friends that I made over the past years, you know. Well, over the past 11 years, because like I said, I have like blackouts and flashes of memory. I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014, late 2013, you know. It's like blackouts, flashes. But memory loss like that doesn't affect personal, like mathematical skills. Mathematical skills, language skills are not stored in the same part of the brain as memory, as personal memory. So, and I don't know if I was doing drugs. Maybe I was a junkie, you know. Maybe I was before 2014. Maybe I was for a few years. Maybe I was a drunk doing drugs and drinking a lot. I don't know. Maybe that caused it, or a vicious surprise attack, which I survived. I'm going to keep updating. I wonder when did I go to the emergency room at the Jewish General Hospital? Because that's around the time that I got attacked. And I went to the Jewish General Hospital, and I was put on something like my hand, and just put on some crack back, and then I was put like the hand was right arm was dislocated, so I was put on some. It was like a bandage, and then I had the bandage, and then I was put on some meds. So I'm curious what the medication was. I'm really curious if they're opioids, because they're doctor prescribed, right? So I'll keep updating, I guess, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is mostly my rebirth and all my work, especially not just the artistic rock and roll songs, because I wrote many rock and roll songs and artistic work, but especially geopolitical work. The geopolitical work, which I've done, of course, is consequently and complementary, of course, to the relationships where we have to get involved. And the fact that I predicted what's happening now, believe it or not, I have the proof. In 2019, October, I started consequently a workout training program system, which I created as well. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I predicted in 2019, October 17, I posted the first video in a series. You can check. I have the proof because I linked it, and you can see day 44, day 33, day 93, day 156, day 333, day 100, 344, etc. of my World War III scenario. So I predicted that there's a international conflagration, aka World War III, coming on the horizon in the coming years. So basically, it has been unfolding. The world has been moving in that direction as my prediction in the parallel. Well, not all details. I did not predict detail by detail, of course, of all the geopolitical events and the conflicts which have arisen since. But generally, I predicted that this is what's coming. So it's one of my main premise was that due to the fact that there were strong existing unresolved conflicts from the 20th century, that these unresolved conflicts are going to reemerge in the 21st century. And if you look at pretty much most of the conflicts in the world, especially Middle East, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, and potentially, well, India, Pakistan, and Taiwan, China, these are unresolved conflicts from the Cold War period, which lasted almost 45 years, between March 1947 and end of December 1991, right? Although some say more than 45 or even 46 and 47, I don't mind. As long as if you say more than 47, then I object, because then we are basically 1943, 1944, and the Second World War was not even over. So If you want to start the Cold War in 1945, I don't really object, but I place the Cold War between March 1947 and, of course, the Perestroika, December 26, 1991. So, it works the upper body when you put all the weight on it. So basically, fundamentally, my geopolitical predictions, and my theories and protocols, mostly for security, service, and defense, and the defensive strategies such as the total mobile defense theory, which I cannot discuss over much. I have to discuss it with David McGinty and high-ranking members of the RCMP and the FBI and all the generals of NATO, because it's binational Canada, United States for the 63 first and foremost, principally, and NATO concorded in with our NATO allies, but first and foremost for the North American Collectif, Canada, United States, and the TMDT, Total Mobile Defense Theory, TM, Total Mobile Defense Theory. When we put the fifth acronym and then that becomes a system, it means that my theory is put into action. And we need to rebuild the ghettos as well, which we're going to be implementing my DRT theory, the death row fusion theory, is going to enable us to rebuild the ghettos, the North American inner urban cities. The North American inner urban cities are going to need to rebuild them. And the number 15 jumps. What a jump for the dedie. So we're going to need to rebuild the ghettos and mass finance fitness, also mass finance tourism. Tourism is going to be special and important to mass finance tourist activities across the 63, in complementary, of course, to all the things that we're going to implement and we're going to fuse to the Imperial complex, and we're going to implement the strategies for total SSD and for rehabilitation, of course, for my brothers and sisters who also lost their liberty. The rehabilitation of our brothers and sisters who are lost their liberty is super important, of course. Let's watch this one. Mr. Irrelevant throws 4 touchdowns in playoffs debut. Beginning playoffs, 4 touchdowns. Not bad for Mr. Irrelevant. That was in 3 years ago. So we're going to implement these strategies, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Death Fusion Theory, the DFT, the Democratic Fusion Theory. Let's see, watch. Number 13, on the feet. What a rocket to number 11, who goes for some yardage there. This is the Seahawks. It's a fun one to watch. Number 13, well, back the ball down the middle. He goes for so many yards. What? Some yards there. Brick by brick, let's build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, or the Imperial Coliseum. To number 23 goes in for the TD. Touchdown. Dancing is my favorite sport, but I love gridiron hockey. Please, NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, players and owners, please give some charity. Reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9% and give some charity to those public workers, those who pick up the garbage, the compost, the garbage, the compost, the compost, the garbage, Public workers, we need to build some new machines and we need to mass invest in the infrastructure, our bridges, potholes, so many potholes in Montreal, some of them are dangerous, and we need to mass invest in the potholes and reconstruct and build for the potholes and do a little bit of rock and roll with that and do a little bit of drilling and do a little bit of that doing now and doing late, and of course doing some of that working out, training and exercising, and always, of course, for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, all those plumbers and the electricians. Number 13 with a rocket. In a parallel life, it is the year darkness 2030. I am also an Aspie. I build, design supercomputers, satellites, ICBM rockets, and everything to do with microchips and satellites, antennas. I'm a super scientist. In that parallel life, it's not sports and fitness and geopolitics, my special interest, but science, mathematics, and physics. Although I'm above average in mathematics. Many Aspies are, right? Many Aspies, people with Asperger's, have a tendency to be above average in mathematics and above average in verbal skills. And that is just the communication style we have, which seems a bit odd and different. But here we are, going for that Super Bowl, gonna go for the pass. Left, all right. Oh, this is fun to work like this. Holy, yeah, that's always fun to innovate. I mean, you have a brick, but you have so many different ways which you can turn the brick around and stretch and just have a workout. You don't even need the brick. Ah, it's good to have some milk. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, support a dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. That's my dream, for the North American collective as we move towards this. We have moved for years now. And of course, some of my geopolitical theories, you can check hundreds of my transcripts, especially you can check just lecture, which are just geopolitical or just based on geopolitics, or you can check such of my lectures or discourses. For example, in 2023, I presented my thesis to the world and called The Privilege of Civilization. I got to give a shout out to Hydro-Quebec for our Hydro-Quebec electricity, zero pollution, zero emission. Hey, I always got to shout out. And now they're with the trucks, repairing if need to be repairing, watching maintenance. It requires maintenance, civilization, our electricity. By the way, Hydro-Quebec, I take great pride as a Quebecer. Here we got the French state. We gotta get the French state, and of course we got that electricity, and it's clean, zero pollution, zero emission. It does not pollute. It's from water, and I want to go to see the Bay James, the Bay James area where we built those dams. We got 63 dams, and we're gonna build some more. Interestingly enough, it's 63, and so we need to build some more dams in the coming days, weeks, months, and years to come. Brock Purdy's top plays, top career highlights so far. Let's watch this one. That's from San Francisco 49ers originally. Brock Purdy's top plays from his 49er career. I'm gonna watch that one. Top plays so far. So that was 7 months ago. Now he's got some new ones, eh? So it's always adding, some increasing, some of that good rock and rolling, man. But he rocks that, just pass, play, run, pass, play, run, pass, play, run. It's not just a one-dimensional quarterback. He's got multi dimensions. That's good. Oh yeah, that's good. This one was versus the Dolphins. To number 44. Buddy, to number 44. Get it, touchdown, and you go. 49ers. Look at that. Oh, he goes in. Sometimes I watch and I see a lot of mathematics, but there is mathematics, but maybe because of not just maybe, because of my Aspie brain, sometimes I see more mathematics than than you, the neurotypicals. But I guess we can have that dialogue, and you can teach me some, we can teach each other and build bridges, because we have to build bridges, and we're not evil, bad, or negative. Aspies, people with autism, we have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and socializing can be difficult, and keeping friends, or rather making them not that difficult maybe, but keeping them. That's why for me, friends with benefits. I don't want to waste anybody's time. What for? And I'm open. 2026 just began, and I don't want to go back to nothing. Oh, what a Hail Mary! That one was something amazing. More than 44 yards on that one for sure. To number 85. That looked like it was 50 yards. So yeah, let's see. Number 13. Pow! These are the highlights. Touchdowns. So basically, it's mostly touchdowns, like TDs, because are good highlights. Mr. Irrelevant, can I get a Super Bowl? 60, 61, 62, 63. For the 63, would I be? So one more shout out to Hydro-Quebec. The plumbers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, train conductors, nurses finishing their 12-hour shift. Please, millionaires, be it is. We need to give some more charity to up the salaries. We're tough economic times for many, stressed out financially. And my DRT theory, which I'm going to discuss in a bit after I hydrate, I guess it's super important for me to not forget to discuss my DRT, the debt refusion theory, because it's the solution, or something which resembles my DRT theory is the solution. Of course, it's part of the strategies. Is of course, I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, and strategist. I develop strategies for the North American collective, always for the Canada, United States, joined binationally, to fuse it into the Imperial Republican complex via the theories aforementioned, which I'm going to discuss soon, the DRT, debt refusion theory, and which is going to enable us to do so much good, especially finance tourism as well, intra-imperial tourism, and intra building of rebuilding of our bridges, our infrastructure, the potholes, and rehabilitation of much of our population. I guess our fellow brothers and sisters citizens have to have a volition, and we have to make a deal, and we have to make concordance, and we have to make agreements. But of course, it is possible, or it will be possible for us to do so in the compromise where we have now to be correlated as where we are now today in all the manifestations of the life affirming matters where we live now and where we are. Play action. Ah, that was a hit. Sometimes the hits are hard, eh? So now I'm going to discuss the DRT, retrofusion theory. Paradoxically, of course, due to being that I have a special interest in geopolitics, one has to know a lot of different things of civilization, such as in economic situations, financial realities. When one discusses geopolitics, at least maybe not an expertise, but it is interrelated. Economics, infrastructure, criminality, justice systems, all these are in part of the of geopolitics, right? Because geopolitics encompasses worldwide. As always, I always say geopolitics never sleeps. Just like the sun never sleeps, every minute there's a sunrise and a sunset somewhere, right? We have time zones. So there's always a sunrise and a sunset. And money never sleeps. Money is to buy, sell, right? That's where the DRT comes into play because we have massive debt, public and private debt. Both Canada and the United States are in a similar precarious situation. And the PBO, just about 3.5 months ago, the public budget officer, PBO, the public budget officer warned that what I warned for in the past transcripts from I started about 3.5 years ago during COVID. You could check past transcripts, especially when I go on the mountain, I discuss. And just 3.5 months ago, the PBO, public budget officer, parliamentary budget officer, the PBO, parliamentary budget officer, charge of Canadian public finances, warned the same thing that I warned. That he said that in about 12 to 18 months we're done basically. So that's why there's a lot of cuts in the public service. See, public service cuts. Services, schools, and by the thousands. And you gotta be watching the news, and it's even the food bank usage has doubled in the past years. It's doubled. The food bank usage has doubled. That's why the numbers are pressuring us. So that's why we have to implement the DRT. Now listen closely, just forget everything else. This is a solution, and just focus on the theory which we need to implement, the DRT, debt refusion theory, and we need to implement it binationally first and foremost, Canada and United States, because we're in a precarious situation, and going to discuss everything that this will enable in consequence to all my other theories, which is of course part of the grand strategy for total geopolitical BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion by the fusion of Canada and United States into the imperial complex and creating two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions thereof. So the DRT stands for debt refusion theory. Integrated into DRT, debt refusion theory is integrated as CI, the monetary integration theory. The monetary integration theory is, of course, the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. In the European Union in the 90s, the monetary integration theory, which is, of course, enabled the creation of the ECB, the European Central Bank, which of course gave the way for the euros, and many countries have the currency known as the euro as their common currency. Many countries, including Germany, Italy, France, they got rid of the Deutschmark, the franc, and their national banks, national central banks, and now they have a common central bank, and a common central bank that enables them to put in use the same common currency since decades ago in the 90s. The ECB, European Central Bank, is a central bank for many nation states. And they have the euro. So integrated in my DRT, the debt refusion theory, is integrated this theory, monetary integration theory, is integrated in my DRT. So now we're going to explain it. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, including my $10,000 to the RBC. I have $10,000, of course, to the RBC as a debt, and of course that is the debt which I have now. Presently, I don't have credit cards myself. I have a credit loan, DRT, debt refusion theory. So of course, all the fact that I have this debt and other citizens have debt, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the public debt of different citizens. We're gonna add it all up, add all the public private debt of Canada, convert all the public private debt of Canada into US dollars, add it all up. We're going to make the addition with all the debt of the United States, both public and private. both public and private. And of course, all that public and private debt is going to be, of course, now, consequently, of course, for us to be, of course, we're going to do the addition and the mathematics behind this, because conversion is going to be a converted from the Canadian currency is going to need to be converted, right? So we're going to be, of course, converting the Canadian currency, the public and the private debt of Canada, converted into US dollars, so we can add it with the US dollar. So all that public private debt of both Canada and the United States, that's going to be the initial money supply. That's the money in circulation for this new central bank, the Imperial Central Bank. The Imperial Central Bank, we're going to create the UE, U dot universal E dot exchange U dot UE. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. The value of the US dollar, the value of the US dollar. So it's going to have the value of the US dollar, thus in concordant to the value of the US dollar. We're going to create this new currency, make an interest, set an interest rates of 10% afterwards. So all credit cards, all loans is not going to be, we're not going to be, there won't be able to, we won't be able to have more interest charged on the debt after. 10% is going to be maximum. We could be below, but not more like we have now, 11%, 15%, 20%, 25, 26% on credit cards. So that's going to be 10% maximum, right? So we're going to make this new financial reset deal in the Canada, United States, as we're going to do this new central bank, and we're going to create the UE, or aka the imperial dollar, because the imperial dollar, aka the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE, because that's what money is basically. The dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollar, the shekel, the euro, the yuan, the yen, it's basically a unit of exchange, a UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE. Of course, this can be expanded. Interestingly enough, the Bank of International Settlements has 63 central banks, so we could expand it from North America throughout the world, NATO, other countries as well. So, but this is what we have to do. So we're going to create this new currency, the UE, based on my theory. And then with this money, we're going to finance the 4 buildings, the Imperial Coliseum. We're going to mass finance fitness. It's going to require my astrological brother, Bill Gates of Microsoft. Is going to require mass BlackRock and Blackstone, our different financial institutions, going to require my financial institution where I have $10,000 in debt, the RBC and the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve. We're going to merge basically Bank of Canada, Federal Reserve. We're going to merge them, fuse them into the Imperial Central Bank. We're going to get rid of the border, do a great census. The institutions, we're going to make new institutions, new constitution, the Imperial Republic Constitution, to complementary covenant of cooperative institutions. We're going to rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the ghettos, rebuild the North American inner urban cities. We're going to mass finance fitness. We're going to build the Imperial People's Coliseum. We're going to, of course, also create the Dragon Army, aka Imperial SSD, Legion Security Service and Defense, only the SSD, Legion Security Service and Defense. We're going to build the Imperial Integrated Dance League, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, the Imperial Integrated Dance League for the environment, environmental education and action. So, because our cities, I check in most every time I check on my cameras, you can see that I check and there's recycling which should go into recycling, and instead it's put into the garbage and vice versa. So in other words, it takes individual action and the collective action, and this is going to be a fusion of education and action. The DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Integrated Dance League, the Integrated Dance League, the Integrated Imperial Dance League, aka the Dancing Goddess Army with the Dragon Army, Dancing Goddess Army for SSD, the Dragon Army. Gonna be an all cooking, all cleaning, all massaging, all service army. SSD, Security Service and Defense. And the Dancing Goddess Army is gonna be for the environment, environmental education and action. And we're gonna rebuild ourselves, and we're gonna also fuse the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, with the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the FBI into the IPS, Imperial Police Service, based on their existing structures of the best of the FBIs and the RCMP, and my protocols, initiatives such as the North American 911, Total 911, Dragon Security Service and Defense, SSD principles, and to assist in building us in the 44 mass infrastructure tunnels, to assist us in rebuilding the potholes, the infrastructure, the roads, the highways, the bridges, the roads, the highways, the bridges, the roads, the bridges, the highways, Mass work, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work. I'm all about work, eh? And friends with benefits. We're gonna get the NACWP as the PPP Public Private Partnership, and Phoenix People's Party, the North American Collective Workers Party, as the Third Democratic Republican Imperial Democratic Republican Party, the North American Collective Workers Party, as I am a universal revolutionary centrist, but my universal revolutionary centrism goes hand in hand with the aforementioned Trinity of theories, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, the DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, and the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory. So this trinity of theories, the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, for the creation of the UE, U dot universal, U dot exchange, U dot UE, aka the imperial dollar, plus the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, for total SSD, security, service, and defense. Gonna get rid of the border, do a great census, see who's been living in Canada, United States for the past 7 years, the court some amnesty. Gonna create a new passport, a new ID. My brother Scorpio Bill Gates to do it also a digital ID. Gonna have to secure the 4G, 5G networks and creates also a court all citizens special phones, a special imperial phone of the citizens where only citizens of the empire will be accorded that phone for specific SSD, security, service, and defense integration and all the aforementioned work. We're gonna create a mass public-private partnership, Microsoft, Google, YouTube, and this special phone will only be, we're going to have new 5G networks for only the citizens of the empire. So that's why we need to do a census, and the citizenship we're going to accord to all who have been living in Canada, United States for the past, let's say, 11 years, for the past, or 7 years. Let's say 7 years is good. 7 years is good, right? The past years, or who are already basically Canadian citizens, are going to be Imperial Republic citizens and citizens of the United States automatically. But those, of course, who have no status, we're going to have to see if they haven't been convicted of 44 or more, 44 criminal convictions in the past 11 years. That's a lot. We're not going to accord the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act, which we can do, Criminal Rehabilitation Act, right? Because we have to implement it. And gonna watch Birdie's rushing highlights. Birdie rushes, but in Concordance, one of the other theories and protocols and initiatives is the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Protocol for the rehabilitation of my brothers and sisters who've lost their liberty and freedom, and to help to build those 44 mass underground city tunnels. 44 mass underground city tunnels need to be built in case of a thermonuclear war, so it requires a mass public-private partnership, PPP, public-private partnership. And in case of a thermonuclear war, ICBM rockets, from Russia, can travel, some of them 10,500 kilometers. From Moscow to Montreal is 8,500. Do the math. 10,500 minus 8,500 is 2,000 left. So they can reach all the way to Montreal, those ICBM rockets. Russia has the Yars 24. They can travel 10,500 kilometers, and supposedly the newest one can travel 12,500. So they can reach even continental US, continental Canada. Things are serious. That's why we need the Golden Dome, put a hawk in it, fuse Canada, United States. The king is absent, my fellow Canadians. I got Canada tatted up there. That's a flag on me, but it's time for my Trinity of theories, and there's more to them, of course. This is a general pursuit. It's going to require mass public-private partnership, and we need to create special for all citizens who are citizens of the coming of our empire. We're going to accord some phones. You can have your private phone, but this is going to be a public phone, like I'm doing the work now with a public phone. There's going to be different phones accorded for only the citizens for special communications, and it's going to be for citizens for special communications, where we have whatever we have, security, service, and defense, and call, of course, for action activities to support building the 44, to support building, rebuilding the highways, and to encourage us to work out, train, exercise. It's going to be good rehabilitation, and we can also institutionalize a great imperial tourism protocol or imperial tourism act. So everybody who's a citizen of the empire, every four times a year, so 4 days times four, that's 16 days a year, for the spring equinox, or spring, winter, autumn, and summer, spring, winter, autumn, summer, spring, winter, autumn, or summer, equinox or solstice. We're going to accord for all citizens who are 16 and over 4 days, where 4 nights, basically 4 nights, where hotels, motels, basically food, travel, and lodging to travel anywhere across the 63 from Canada. Well, it's Gonna be the Imperial Republic. Canada, United States, gonna be one fused. And from Texas to Quebec, from Quebec to California, Utah, Alabama, Alaska, Missouri, Mississippi, Yukon, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Maritimes in the Maritimes, in Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, Idaho, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, that Alberta, British Columbia, Quebec, Ontario. Then we go down to Texas, Tennessee, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, West Virginia, Washington, Oklahoma, Ohio, Oklahoma, Washington, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Colorado, Connecticut, Kentucky, Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Arizona, Alaska, Hawaii, Idaho, Missouri, Montana. Not Joe who won for the 49ers, but the state Montana, Indiana, Rhode Island, Nevada, Nebraska, we got that Wisconsin, we got that New York, New Jersey, Maine, Pennsylvania. Well, I said the 50 already, I believe, eh? Maybe. Maryland, I didn't say Maryland, right? Maryland, no, I didn't say Maryland, right? Georgia, Louisiana, I didn't say Louisiana, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Alaska, Massachusetts, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Idaho, Utah. I didn't say Utah. Oregon, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon. Nobody's gone. Oregon, Yukon, Nunavut, Quebec, Texas, Tennessee. For the 10 to 50 and the 63. Let our empire rise and be. There's a little bit of workout. There's Buddy on the go. So it's been a special rock and roll workout with yours truly, Dragon, watching some Purdy and freestyling on this Monday, 12th of January. Always got to be that grateful. Oh, Purdy slides. What a slide. Get slide. Now is the highlights of Purdy rushing yards. He's got some rushing skills, eh? He rushes that ball right through sometimes, because that first down operational. So that's part of the dream, the sparks of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. My dream for the North American Collective was part of the implementation of my Trinity theories and creating the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, which are public-private partnership, PPP, the Dancing Goddess Army, DGA, aka the Imperial Integrated Dance League for Environmental Education and Action, and the Dragon Army, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Dragon Army, based on the fusion thereof. Of course, we're going to also fuse into the Imperial Police Service, IPS, Imperial Police Service, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the RCMP as one. We're going to get rid of the border, do a census. We're going to have to do a great census, and then we're going to stabilize by the borders with Mexico and the planes and the airplanes, and I have to know, and the Dragon Army, everything that's coming in and out, all citizens and goods and services. We're going to have integrated citizens to see everything that's coming in through our ports and our airports, 24/7 mass with flock safety and mass surveillance for total security SSD in the public. We're going to build a mass digital imperial system with Microsoft, and like I said, we're going to work to create the imperial citizen phones, which are going to be annually distributed to citizens with guarantee if there's any, of course, kind of coverage. But of course, there has to be some rules and regulations because we want people to take it seriously and to understand the geopolitical situations of our safety and security, and the fact that the world has changed, and whether the geopolitical realities and all this other theories such as the DMAA, direct military assistance and action, which has potential consequences, as we have seen with the transnational criminal syndicates and all the things that can, of course, harm us interiorly. And I get goosebumps whenever I discuss my own, what I call the Independent Citizen Security Action, ICS, Independent Citizen Security Action, ICSA, Independent Citizen Security Action, which years and years ago was 2016, as I discovered here in Montreal, they freely distributed newspaper. See, I get goosebumps when I discuss it. I discovered Islamic State propaganda, so I always say maybe that's why I didn't die there where I used to live, and that's why I survived. I got good karma, because to balance the scales with the karma and to do some good. And maybe I'm pretty sure that I saved some tens, thousands, if not hundreds, maybe hundreds, by my intervention, which I call the Independent Citizen Security Action (ICSA). Of course, when I discovered here in Montreal a freely distributed newspaper, Islamic State propaganda, calling on citizens to pledge their allegiance to the Islamic State, which is now has a resurgence, and we have seen their more recent terrorist attacks, atrocities which they committed in the past, and of course they had declared themselves a caliphate back then. And I did work here when I, without any hesitation, I discovered here in the newspaper, which was really distributed, an article on behalf of the Islamic State. But I have no idea how it passed the editor, how it got published. But nonetheless, right away I took it. I walked all the way to the RCMP and distributed and made a citizen report. And after days and weeks and months afterwards, I haven't seen the newspaper being published ever since. So maybe their license got revoked. And I'm pretty sure with that action that I did, my independent citizen security action, by doing that and writing CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, I'm pretty sure I saved hundreds of lives potentially. Because if that newspaper would have remained on the freely distributed like it was, and people, some others would have read that propaganda, would have decided to pledge allegiance to the Islamic State and commit atrocities and start attacking us right here in Montreal, right? Commit acts of terrorism on behalf of the Islamic State, right? So that's one of the other things that I did, other acts of goodness and kindness, which I got to increase myself, and some justice. Well, I don't make pretense that I'm perfect. I like my sweets, I like my hazelnuts, I like my wafers. If you're 18 plus, you're black or white or rainbow. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. You're 18 plus, you're black, you're white, you're rainbow, you're a man, you're a woman. I'm androgynous, pansexual, part of the LGBTQ community, and laying the foundations for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. With 718 trillions of kisses, you heard that correct. God is correct. Yours truly, Adrian Hanna, Dragon, keep my name out of your mouth. Adrian Hanna, Dragon, if it's not for a blessing, parallel with hundreds and thousands of marching steps with it, and those marching steps would add categorically, of course, to be recommended in all the imperial protocols, which we're going to implement as the CIT citizen integration theory. That's where we're going to be, of course, in the plurality where we are now, of course, all the relationships where we are to be compromitted in all the manifestations of our imperial republic where it arises. The 63 and the implementation of my Trinity of theories would launch us towards the BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion of the world, in a geopolitical manner. And of course, again, I have predicted what's happening now, and part of my strategies are for the North American Collective, but most are for the North American Collective, but they can be extended to the NATO, North Atlantic, to the organization. Member states, consequently, first and foremost, because we constitute a North American Collective. I discussed that philosophy in the past. We constitute Canada, United States, we constitute a North American collective, and here in Quebec, we made what I call the great linguistic compromise with the French language. We continue to do it, a great linguistic compromise, which we continue to have to do our part as individuals here in Quebec to espouse the French language and encourage citizens, if they want to come here, to encourage a little bit of that French rock and roll like Celine Dion. But we have the French state right here. We got the Hydro-Quebec and Bombardier and many things in Quebec that are great and super, and we counterbalance each other. The Dragon Army for the 63 was going to be the Legions, SSD Legions. Is going to be one for all for one for the 63, 63 for one principle, SSD only, security, service, and defense, one for all for one. Dragon Army, we're going to establish Dragon's Lairs, and we're going to have the Island of the Hawk go parallel with the Pentagon. We're going to mass invest in a total SSD and mass, of course, build more satellites, sats, and to build that skyscape where we're going to be able to intercept ICBM rockets from below the ground and from above. So we need, of course, to mobilize the citizenry where we accord food, housing, and transport and housing, and of course work to mass finance tourism for citizens to be able to travel anywhere across the 63 4 times a year. Or you can take 8 days twice a year, or 16 once a year. You can take, depending, you can accumulate. Once you get to 44, you got to use them or lose them, because the Imperial Tourism Protocol and Ministry, we're going to accord all citizens of the Empire, which are going to be 16 and plus, 4 nights or food, travel, lodging, so you can take the planes, airports, the planes to fly anywhere across anywhere of the 63 states, which are in the future going to be soon now, and of course anywhere by train, by plane, and you spend 1 night in a hotel or motel. Don't expect caviar or expensive air, but you can have. Myself, I'm gonna keep it simple, with some good cheeseburgers, good hamburgers, good fries, good some of that good rock and roll meal. Some pizza, food, housing, breakfast, dinner, basically lunch, breakfast, dinner, and lunch, and nights, 4 nights, so people can get to travel. This will espouse a sense of solidarity and a sense of joy. It's going to enable us to look something to look forward and to be excited, regardless of all financial status. It's going to be accorded to all who are 16 and over, so you can travel anywhere across the empire, and you're going to be encouraged to do volunteering and to rebuild the ghettos, to rebuild the infrastructure, the potholes, the trains and the planes and the bridges, and to visit anywhere across Alabama, Illinois, Quebec, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Wyoming, West Coast, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Indiana, Utah, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, New York, New Jersey, West Virginia, Washington, Ohio, Orlando. Well, Orlando is a city, but nonetheless, California, Connecticut, Kentucky, Kansas, Kentucky, Arizona, Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, Texas, Tennessee, those double DTTs, and Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, anywhere in Canada, United States, are going to be able to mass finance that traveling. So that is going to be a great, great, great event, which we're going to do, of course, together by the DRT, by implementing the debt refusion theory. Fundamentally, my DRT theory, the DRT debt refusion theory, debt refusion theory, and the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, is of course going to be enabling us to do this. So the creation of the UE, the imperial dollar, fundamentally by the DRT, will enable us to do all this as a mass public-private partnership, also to create those phones. Everybody citizen of the empire who's 16 and over is going to be given that phone for different ways, and you have to be a citizen to be accorded that special phone, which is going to have the special network, secured networks, and that's only going to be those phones for citizens, and it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to make international calls, or going to be only for the empire, imperial protocols, and you're going to have unlimited phone and internet use, but it's going to be, of course, with a purpose, to be able to volunteer, to get news, the encouragement to work out, train, exercise, to chant the new anthems of the empire, and to encourage you to do workout, to encourage you to volunteer, to hear the Dragon Army for SSD, security, service, and defense, and to, of course, get those to use those 4 days, 4 times a year, 4 times 4, 16 days a year. We're going to be credited to all citizens who are going to be 16 and over, part of the imperial citizen protocol. These are great initiatives who say no, they lying to pestilence. Say no, they lying to pestilence. Say no, they lying to pestilence. So for the law of Thelema 92, which is going to establish, of course, the law of Thelema, non-sectarian in our empire of the 63. We're going to rock and roll it all the way, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're going to create the IPS, Imperial Police Service, IPS, by refusing of the FBI and the RCMP, and co-parallel the Dragon Army, aka the Imperial Integrated SSD, Legion Security Service and Defense, S Security, S Service Defense, SSD, Security Service and Defense, based on my initiatives and mobilization of citizenry, build those 44 tunnels, accord to some of our brothers and sisters who lost their liberty some second, third chances, and build more housing, and establish a mass public-private partnership in Concordia. And that imperial protocol for tourism is going to be enable us for great rejuvenation, recreation, and establishing of a strong imperial esprit de corps for the empire, Dragon Army, SSD, Security Service and Defense, and the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, to dance for the environmental education and action. We got a lot of work to do, to plant trees, educate the public, to do good individual action, because I notice a lot of garbages have the recycling. Now you see on my videos, sometimes you see I take it from the garbage and I put it into recycling because it's paper or plastic, and it goes into recycling. It does not go into garbage. So it takes individual action and collective action. So for the empire, let it rise and let it be, and gonna merge and fuse and create a complementary institutions. So mass public private partnership, my brother Bill Gates, all institutions, technological flock safety, Palantir, and going to include, of course, the creation of the phone for the citizens of our Imperial Republic of the 63. New networks is going to operate on new networks, join public-private partnership. Canada, United States going to get rid of the border, do a great census, fuse these institutions, and we're going to create this massive imperial complex for total SSD security, service, and defense. Is going to require a mass institution, of course, to be built in the complementary, where we're going to have, of course, this mass public-private partnership, and it's going to be requiring all cooperation on all levels of the corporate public sectors and the private sectors to work together in this universal revolutionary centrism, which is going to be tied hand in hand with the geopolitical realities of what we're living today and the potential of escalation and further conflict and outside of the North American collective. So not only peace through strength, but peace through love and understanding and some action and some charity. I'm not totally selfless. I don't make pretense that I'm totally selfless. I wish I could get a massage therapy. That would be so good for myself, but it's also for myself and for the others, to be of service to myself and for the others as much as I can with my neurodivergence as an Aspie, part of this tiny minority, and our brothers and sisters in the empire who are minorities, just like myself, for neurodivergence with Asperger's, and my brothers and sisters. 13.3, 13.4% of our empire, my brothers and sisters, were blacks. Black men, black women, if you're 18 and plus, open to black, white, and rainbow loving 24/7, rock and roll. And we're going to rebuild the ghettos, going to rebuild the North American inner urban city together. And I'm somebody who is eager to do that together with all my brothers and sisters across the empire, for the self and for the other. And one of the 63 states for the 63, and vice versa. One for the 63 is one for all for one in terms of emergency responses. I just saw Hawaii earlier. There's in need of some volcano. Maybe some responses are going to be necessary in Hawaii to see if we can conjointly do something if there's human harm or whatever is unfolding now. I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to have to double check. But what I saw, of course, is in the news. So the development thereafter, I cannot be sure and certain 100% at this moment in time. So I guess there's going to have to be some updates in regards to what's happening in Hawaii. So that's a little bit of a rock and roll. And yeah, we're going to rock and roll and write some imperial rock and roll songs and do everything that we do now, just on this new reality, this new fusion of our mass territory and populations becoming one, the north and the south, fused into the imperial complex, mass public-private partnerships. My trinity of theories: the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, detrol fusion theory. This has been a workout, a bit of that rock and roll style, Aspiesque. Encourage you all to work out, train, exercise. Main message is hug like you never hugged before. HUG with consent. Don't start hugging people in the streets, Don't start hugging people in the streets. Don't start hugging random people in the streets. And we're going to have great hope. The youth, the children are innocent. That's one of the motto of our empire. American Canadian Empire fused in the dragon dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and the coming of our Imperial Republic for the rehabilitation. Meet you at the mountain, Mount Royal, at the chalet, Belvedere, my second home where I love to go, and feel much better now. I'm a bit moody. I was a bit moody, but I'm gonna feast on a budget after this workout, which is gonna end in a few minutes. Just gonna say my gratitude again, although my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, and paid Netflix, and money's to buy sell. That's why we need the UE, and need to build the House of the Dragon, the Imperial People's Coliseum, and on the mountain here for the banquet, calling all brothers and sisters in the USA, Canada, for this fusion thereof, to the Imperial Complex atop Mount Royal, my second home, Mount Royal, at Belvedere, Kondianak, the chalet where you can see my favorite skyscraper, that pyramid. We're going to need to build more skyscrapers and build the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. To build the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, we're going to build it. It's going to be a mass building thereof, mass structure. And this way we're going to build that mass structure and the Forgotten Goddess Temple, because it's always God bless. Goddess kiss, KISS, from the goddess got those trillions collected from the stars lit heavens of the goddess, and in a kiss to her goddess sister who dances with her brother, the sun below. And I got trillions of marching steps parallel with those kisses and some of that good rock and rolling, rock and roll 24/7 for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, the welders. This is a good workout. Got a little bit of sweat. Tomorrow's another day for more working out, more geopolitics, more rock and roll. Gonna go wash my hands. Gonna heat some of that. Have some soup. Have some of that soup. Have some soup on a budget. Have some hummus and have some more milk and have some of that good, Have some of that good. Pledge your allegiance to our family. Let my main out, end it out with the main out. Rock and roll it for the go. You know just how I rock and roll on the road. Just so that I let you know. Always rock and always roll. For the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, electricians, and the plumbers, and the doctors, and the truckers, and the nurses, and the train conductors. God bless, God is kiss. Nobody's born a dragon, you become one, not even myself. That's the motto of the Dragon Army. Hey, nobody is born a dragon. Nobody's born a dragon. You become one, Adrian Hanna, Dragon, LOVE. Keep my name out of your mouth if it's not for a blessing. Hope you have an understanding.